What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. Joined alongside Jacob in Wisconsin here to talk some Packers, talk some combine, talk some latest trade rumors. First and foremost, I want to apologize for the voice. Hopefully it'll get stronger as the show goes along, but it may just end up being Jacob doing the rest of the show if it gets weaker. But we're
mock draft, baby. Mock draft.
We got the free gels, vitamin C drop sponsor the show. That's what helping us hang on here. So, Jacob, how you doing, man?
I'm doing all right, man. I had a rough night, like I told you. I woke up this morning and shocker, I was craving a steak, egg, and cheese bagel from Mickey D's, which is disgusting and horrible. If RFK could hear me, he would definitely punch me in the face. But it was delicious.
I talked about this a couple episodes ago. I went 42 years without knowing about the Egg McGriddle. And, man, I think it was last summer that I stumbled upon it. I'm like, holy cow, this is the fire right here. Just
McGriddles
egg McGriddle, just egg, folded egg on a McGriddle. Gosh, money, man. Hopefully everybody's doing well. I see them filing into the chat. We got Ron Samble in the house. We got Huge Ass. We got United Bates. We got, let's see here, Richard King. Good to see you, buddy. Milltown Corey in the house. Daryl in here I believe from Canada, if I remember correctly. Prince in the chat as well. Hugh, Mr. Jass. I'm not cussing, guys, over you on the pod. His name is Hugh, and his last name is Jass. And I'm going to take his word for it. I think that's his name. He said, Clayton's watching Saturday morning cartoons. Jacob, you remember the good old days, right? With the Saturday morning.
Man, that was when I saw that comment, it really brought back a lot of memories where you'd wake up, it'd be, 7, 8 o'clock, and you'd just go hang out on the couch, you turn them on, and man, like Tom and Jerry. I mean, that was my favorite.
Yeah, and man, I'm telling you, the cartoons we grew up watching, they would get canceled so quick today.
Oh, they're real bad.
It was hilarious. I mean, that's back when people, didn't get their feelings hurt every 2 seconds. But yeah, I think of Bugs Bunny. Obviously, like you said, Tom and Jerry, the Flintstones. Flintstones were the fire back in
Elmer
the day.
Fudd. Remember the Jetsons? I love the Jetsons.
Yeah, I wasn't as big on the Jetsons, but I think everybody in my circle, all the knuckleheads I ran with, they loved it too. I just never was very big on it.
Scooby-Doo.
Scooby-Doo, oh my God, man. You kidding me? There was always some freak at the end that was just tricking everybody, and you hung on for dear life. I think there was one episode of Scooby-Doo where it actually was a ghost. It's like a Halloween special. So anyway, that's what you tune in here for, and that's why the show sucks.
Right.
So if you would hit that like button for us. Yeah, Richard King, I miss the old cartoons. Me too, man. So, all right, Jacob, we got a couple things to cover here. As we got all kinds of RAS information, obviously, coming out of the combine. We've updated our board with the information we've got so far, and we'll talk about all that. We'll go through Twitter. Let's start off with, obviously, what we talked about last night with the DK Metcalf trade rumors. You guys know the Seattle Seahawks reporter, and I don't know if he works for Locked On or not, but it kind of felt like him and Peter Bukowski were kind of in this together a little bit. So it kind of makes you step back and go, okay, if they're working for the same company, they're the only two reporting that the Packers expect to get a first-round pick for Jair, when all of our Packers insiders are saying, I don't see that happening. We'll see who it proves to be right. But obviously Matt Schneidman tweeted at the gentleman that had that original information and disagreed with it. Well, here was Matt Schneidman on 97.3, the game last night, and him kind of talking about what he heard. And keep in mind, whether you believe him completely or not, I think he got information from someone. Matt Schneidman has given me no reason to think that he would ever I've never seen him mislead anybody with information. I feel like he's straight to the point. He's one of my favorite reporters that covers the Packers. So let's go with the Matt LaFleur belt to ass, since Matt Schneidman was refuting a claim here. But anyway, here's Matt Schneidman explain his reporting regarding the DK Metcalf trade situation on 97.3 The Game.
And that's a DK Metcalf trade that popped into my timeline this morning after a reporter named Corbin Smith from Seattle reported basically that the Packers had an offer on the table to the Seahawks for a DK Metcalf trade that I believe his wording was constituted a high draft pick and a receiver. And I said, oh, DK Metcalf. I know that was one of the names that had been floated around in terms of veteran wide receivers the Packers could try and acquire, along with Devontae Adams, a T. Higgins, but we hadn't really seen any substantial reports about, okay, the Packers are interested or this or that. And I'm not here to say, oh, he's wrong, or meet me at Starbucks, or yeah. If people don't get that, I would just Google Starbucks NFL reporters. Hilarious story. I'm just here to say this is what my reporting is, and what I was told by the person I trust is that there have been no negotiations or talks between the Packers and Seahawks about a DK Metcalf trade. Now, I'm not going to, like I said, sit here and say Corbin Smith and Peter Bukowski are terrible reporters. I'm not going to sit here and say that. Someone's going to clip me just saying Corbin Smith and Peter Bukowski are terrible reporters and leave out I'm not going to say before that.
I won't.
But thank you. But what I am going to do is just say what I'm told and the info that I trust, and that there's nothing substantial here. There's nothing here, period. Certainly not any negotiations that have taken place. Does that mean this conversation won't arise at some point this offseason? I can't sit here and say that the Packers are completely uninterested in DK Metcalf, or that they're never going to approach the Seahawks about DK Metcalf. I can just say that that has not happened up until this point. Now, we know John Schneider and Brian Gutekunst are very close. They worked together here in Green Bay for a long time. So there's a very clear line of communication there. If something needs to be discussed, it just hasn't yet. So that's that. It would be a nice addition, depending on what the Packers would give up. But yeah, nothing there right now.
All right, so there you go. That was Matt Schneidman kind of giving his side of all of those rumors there. I see people reacting in the comments. We'll hit those. The big thing there, Jacob, is what we talked about. Like this, when you hear that side of the story, and it looked like someone confirmed. Ron Sample said he is a Locked On Seattle Seahawks guy, so he's a part of that Locked On podcast family. Obviously, you guys know Peter Bukowski does the Locked On Packers podcast. I mean, I'm sure you know who he is. I want to say either you love him or you hate him. I know from my personal experience, we had a run-in on Twitter right off the bat, and people were messaging me like, Clayton, you seem like a really nice guy. You don't like to argue on Twitter. What the hell? Yeah, when I see someone talking down to a Packers fan, like they don't have a clue what they're talking about. And they weren't talking down to me. He was talking down to someone else. You know, that was the infamous, I do this for a living.
To be fair, he does this for a living, Clay. Okay.
Yeah. And it's just when you hear that, it's like, okay, dude, these people are obviously interested in interacting with your content. And the guy wasn't really rude. He was just disagreeing. And that was his way of going, sit down, little man. You don't know what you're talking about. That's when I had to enter the chat. Like, hey, bro, anytime you want to get on the telestrator, talk X's and O's, let's do it. Since you're going to act like you can high horse. So that was a run-in we had essentially. And it seems like many other people have had a run-in with him as well. It's going to happen. Twitter's a place where tough people hang out until it's time to do tough people things. It's what I've noticed. But anyway, if Locked On, it seems to me, Jacob, Locked On has kind of got that, a little bit of that reputation. And maybe it's just because we're Packer fans and Peter Bukowski is a name that it's like there's always some kind of argument, fight. I mean, he was, trying to get John Kuhn canceled for calling him a drama queen. He said that was sexist or something. And then, of course, John Kuhn pulled the receipts because these idiots don't know. You can go straight to Twitter and search their Twitter page to see what they've typed in. And sure enough, he had used those terms before too. So it's like when you try to get people in trouble and canceled, obviously that's going to get a lot of eyes on you as well. But I don't know, man. I love the idea of the Locked On podcast family. Like, hey, man, you can go listen to the Cowboys. You can go listen to the Patriots. You can go listen to anything. They got all this. But boy, oh boy, it just seems like more often than not, this type of stuff emerges and you go, that was a big nothing burger. Like Matt Schneidman said, though, this could happen, right? And if it does, old boy from Locked On Seahawks he will get his day in fame, right? Like he'll be proven right. But
yeah,
the fact that Matt Schneidman said, I can tell you there's been no contract talks. That's the big thing with this trade, guys. It's not that anyone wouldn't want DK Metcalf on the Packers roster. I think we all agree they would be a better team with him. Now, if you're talking about they'd be a better team with him minus 25 to 30 million in cap space, that's a hard no for me. And it sounds like Matt Schneidman, who, again, he has a weekly show with Matt LaFleur during the season. It's not like this is some rando reporter. You know what I mean? It's not like this guy is me saying, hey, guys, I heard. Like, I'm not plugged in at all. 1265. Matt Schneidman is. I don't know. Jacob, it seems like, at least on the surface, it's a big nothing burger, man.
Yeah, I mean, and whatever. I'm not going to throw shade on anybody. Everybody has their little niche, what they do. I'll just say the Locked On. I started listening to Locked On years and years ago. It's coincidentally what led me to find Ryan, which led me to find you. So I'll leave that there. It seems like the Locked On network has become more like a TMZ, and it's less about X's and O's, like what you said. But everybody, you like what you like. You do what you do. I agree with Ron right here. I think Schneidman has never once, if you start looking at independent reporters, whatever you want to call them, I'm sure he's affiliated with certain organizations or whatever. Trust is a massive thing, at least for me. When I get burned once, I don't want to sound like an idiot because I shared information that someone else gave to me as a fact. You just made me look bad. Now, and if you did it unintentionally, I understand people make mistakes. I'll make mistakes. You've made mistakes. You said Twitter's a vicious place, and for people that just kind of, you hurt my feelings, I'm gonna tell your boss. It's like those are the guys that want Max Crosby. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It is what it is.
Oh man, it's I don't know, dude. It's just, and again, like you said, there's a market for that kind of talk. There really is.
I know it's unfortunate. There is,
yeah, but and hey, do your thing. You know what I mean? That's your niche. Do it, but again, don't pretend like you know everything about football and the Packers and put fans down when anyone who has two brain cells to rub together, who studied the game of football for a significant amount of time, can look up and go, bro, you're just looking at numbers on a spreadsheet. You're not taking into account anything that's actually happening on the field. Yeah. And that's cool. There ain't nothing wrong with fanning like that or running a show like that. But when you come after one of our own trying to put them down, that bothers me. It does. And Jacob in the chat, of course, said, Clayton sounds like Bill Clinton. I did not have sexual relations with that woman. Blake B just got home from breakfast at my favorite soul food place. That's the Cracker Barrel. Hey, man, there's Cracker Barrels on every corner down here in the South. And
I've never been to a Cracker Barrel.
Yeah, it's pretty good. People from up north, they consider it country. Oh man, that's some country cooking. That ain't country cooking. It's good. Don't get me wrong.
What would you compare it to? Like comparison?
Place? If you're talking about like a quality, I'd say it's a 7 or an 8 with quality of food. But when you walk in, it's just old school. It looks like an old country barn or something. They got old pictures on the wall and like farming tools and stuff on the wall. Got a little gift shop up front. The food is good for what it is. It's frozen food that's not made from scratch. But country cooking ain't frozen food. Country cooking's made from scratch.
Blake clarifies it is not soul food.
Right. And here's the thing: some people consider it that because they haven't had like deep South country cooking, right? And I'm telling you, the people that don't have a lot of deep South country cooking typically live longer than us who are eating the deep South country cooking because it's fry everything is anything you can fry. Throw a banana in there, fry that thing, anything you can fry.
Dude, when I lived in Nashville, me and the roommates, we took a road trip down to Florida and we did kind of a zigzaggy place because we wanted to just hit these random spots. The best places I've ever eaten in my life. I can't give you the names because we were, young party guys, but it was a place like there was multiple places where you walked in and it looked horrible on the outside, and that's how you knew the food was good inside. And we walked in there, dude. I had some of the best barbecue, some of the best soul food, some of the best. I'd never had like shrimp and grits before, and it was oh my god, it was so good.
Yeah. Blake B in the chat. Smoke screen. Bukowski must have the real intel. I can't tell if that's sarcasm or not.
Sarcasm.
Okay, there you go. And again, man, they may be proven right. I want to say what Bukowski said was the Packers are seeking a first-round pick for Jair Alexander, something like that, or they were expecting to get a first-round pick. You guys go check his Twitter and see. I try to steer clear just because obviously I'm not on Twitter to argue with people, but people are going, "What the hell are you doing there, Clay?" It's a good question. I don't know. I'm just kind of hanging out, I guess, but. Yeah, I'm going to go with Matt Schneidman on this one, but you never know, man. You never know. It could it could shake loose and end up being some truth to it for sure. Let's go to the Patreon group real quick, and then we're going to go back to Twitter. And there's all kinds of information that's dropped, and we'll go rapid fire here. Josh Martin in our questions for the show over on Patreon. If you want to join our Patreon group, patreon.com/Packer Fan Total Access, or we typically have a QR code that our boy Tim is on the ball. There it is. Scan the QR code in the upper right. That'll send you to that page. If you're a member of one of the 3 tiers, you get access to these questions for the show. It works just like a super chat on YouTube, that type of thing. We'll read your questions on the air. Also, we're doing a giveaway tonight. Okay. Anybody hearing my voice? Tonight, we're going to be giving away an autographed Lucas Van Ness jersey. So anyone who is a member on Patreon, okay, member of one of those 3 tiers, we're going to put your name on the Larry McCarron Pinky Wheel of Fame, and we're going to spin that sucker, and whoever it lands on, we're going to give away an autographed Lucas Van Ness jersey, just like this one right here from pristineauctions.com. Got the certificate of authenticity, or the sticker. I think they've switched to the sticker now, that you can scan, and it shows everything. So, and as Prince says, it is rigged. So, enter at your own, I guess you could say. But it's a way for us to give back to those who are supporting the channel. So Josh Martin in here says, do you think the Bengals would go for this trade? A 25 6-rounder, Jair, and our first for their first. So essentially what he's saying here, Jacob, is we move up 6 spots to the 17th spot in the draft. I didn't think about this as a possibility.
That's an interesting scenario there.
Right.
I don't know where it would fall on, like the, what do you call it? Like the Jimmy Johnson scale of what's worth what, but that's an interesting theory I had not thought of at all.
Now, think about what we just said, too. I think it was Peter Bukowski that was reporting the Packers are seeking a first-round pick. This would line up, right? If it's technically a first-round pick, right, you would flip your first and give a 6th, and like you said, climb up to the 17th spot. And I'm trying to think here. If we look at our board, I'm not going to put it on the screen. I'm just going to kind of read it off to you guys real quick. If we wanted to get up to 17, what kind of player could we get as opposed to if we stayed in the 23rd spot? If we got up to 17, you put yourself in the ballpark of people like Kenneth Grant, Jahdae Barron, Mike Green, Siobhan Ravel, Mikael Williams, who I'm pretty sure he had a pretty decent combine, or maybe he didn't. Josh Simmons, offensive tackle for Ohio State. All of those are above the 23 spot, or if Jahad Campbell, who's sitting in the 23 spot for us, if for some reason the Packers get word that he might be a top 15 pick, top 17 pick, he's still on the board at that spot. Pull the trigger, trade up, get rid of Ja, and move that way. I'm with you, Jacob. I think that's a fascinating question because, that's another way that you could trade Ja and increase your draft status there. Now, would I do that trade? If Ja would want to play for the team under a restructured contract that would pay him if he's on the field and not pay him as much if he's off the field, which that's kind of where it's sitting right now with the fact that the majority of the guaranteed money is gone. I don't know, man. I would still, if you tell me, Clayton, you can have Jair back, the old Jair, and he's healthy, or would you take this trade? I'm going with the old Jair. I think we've all kind of come to that point, like at some point we just have to accept the fact that it's a decent chance Ja's not going to play many snaps. You continue to burn yourself. You know what I mean, Jake?
Yeah, and it's been a tough situation because, like you said, man, Jair, he was one of the only guys that when we first drafted him, I was like, this dude's going to be a star. I really believed it from the beginning. It was just the swagger, the seatbelt, buckle up, the whole 9 yards. We got drops for days about how when he is on, but it's just, I haven't seen that guy for like 2.5, maybe 3 years of any consistency. And it stinks because it seems like that is a common thread, that when the Packer players that we love get paid, they seem to just go into coast mode. And I don't know how we remedy that. I don't know if there's a different, you guys know I've always been more of an incentive-based production type of contract. I don't know why more of them aren't like that, where it's like, really, I'm talking so many metrics where it's like, if the guy has a great year, then we pay the dude out the butt. But if he doesn't have a great year, then we don't overpay for good, like we've talked about. So I'd love that. I know that Deadfish is talking about a draft he had on Draft Buzz. You got to be careful on Draft Buzz. That place will let you have some mighty fine mock drafts that are not realistic. Guys are falling. Like, look, he's got Genty.
This is Draft Buzz. Yeah,
they're great for info, but you do a mock draft and just throw it in the garbage.
It's like, damn, I should be a general manager.
Yeah.
Deadfish says, I might have cheated on this mock. There you go. I did via Draft Buzz, but I don't know how. So pick 23, he got Travis Hunter. Obviously, that would not happen. I guess he traded down because the next pick he's showing is round 3. Walter Nolan. I do not see Walter Nolan falling to the 3rd round.
Nope.
Ty Warren in the 3rd round. That ain't happening. Ain't no way, no how. Right. Jahdae Barron in the 4th. Jalen Walker in the 5th. Ashton Gianti in the 5th. Wyatt Malum in the 6th. Trey Harris in the 6th. Darius Alexander in the 7th.
Yeah.
And Jihad Campbell
in the 7th.
Yeah. Deadfish, I wanted to show this message out of respect to you, and we appreciate your support. But yeah, man, that's somebody where Draft Buzz been hitting the pipe, I believe. I could be wrong. That did not seem like a very realistic draft for sure. Josh Martin in the questions for the show over on Patreon said, so according to Dove Kleiman, he posted on Twitter, the Seahawks have a trade offer for Metcalf from the Packers' 23rd pick and either Wicks or Dobbs. Which wide receiver do you prefer the Seahawks take if they agree? Me personally, I'd say Wicks only if Dobbs completely recover from the concussions. It's a great question, Josh. Jacob, let me get your take before I give mine. And that way I don't want to steal your thunder. And tell me what you think, and then I'll answer the same question. So, again, the question is, which wide receiver do you prefer the Seahawks take? So, let's say you agree to that deal. Now you got to decide they'll take either Wicks or Dobbs. Which one would you give up?
If I had to, and this is not a decision I would obviously be in the position to make. If I had to, I would let Dobbs go.
Okay. Yeah, for me, it's are you thinking now or are you thinking the future? If you're thinking the future, Dontavion Wicks, or as the gentleman said last night, Dontarion Wicks. He is under contract for 2 more years, right? Dobbs, this is his last year. So if you're not going to re-sign Dobbs to a contract extension, it would make sense to get rid of him this year. If you got Dobbs in the future, I don't know how you're going to pay him, eventually Jaden Reed, and a DK Metcalf, assuming that this trade did happen, right? So for me, I think it's tough because we say we're win now. Well, if we're win now, Dobbs is hands down a better receiver than Dontavion Wicks, at least at this point. You know what I mean? So to trade away I talked about this yesterday. If you gave Romeo Dobbs the same amount of targets that DK Metcalf got in Seattle last year, their numbers are exactly the same. I mean, Dobbs is like 50 yards less, but they are really, really close, right? So it's, why would we get rid of one, pick up another? It kind of puts you right back where we're at. So if we're win now, I would say trade Dontavion Wicks and group up, with Christian Watson not coming back to at least the halfway point of the season, maybe longer. At least that window should open around week 9. Then you would have Jaden Reed, DK Metcalf, Romeo Dobbs as your top receivers, right? That to me looks better for win now than Jaden Reed, DK Metcalf, and Dontavion Wicks. Now, Dontavion Wicks may return to 2023 form and end up kind of taking that next step and being better than Dobbs, that's for sure. If you're just saying long-term, I would rather trade Dobbs as well, Jake. But again, I wouldn't agree to this trade, though. That's just me. I would not do it. I would not give up the 23rd overall pick for a guy who, because the chances are his targets are going to go down when he comes to Green Bay. I'm telling you, those same fans that are screaming, get DK. If he continues at that rate that he was last year, then he's going to have less yardage, less touchdowns than he did in Seattle because he's going to get less of a target share. Now, if you're saying build an offense around, let's just force the ball to DK, well, now Jaden Reed's numbers are going to go down. And we've seen what happened last year. People forget, not 24, but 23, Jordan's first year starting. We struggled in the first quarter of the season because he was forcing the ball to Christian Watson. I'm telling you, it's not a way to run an offense. It's just my opinion. So, my answer would be short term, keep Dobbs as a better receiver right now, but obviously long-term effects, at least you got Dontavion Wicks on the roster for another year if you stay there. So, again, thanks to everybody with the questions over in Patreon. Y'all, I think it's absolutely awesome, man. It's March 1st, and we got people asking questions over on Patreon and everything and keeping that going. It's just so cool, the group that we've got here. Here is in the prospects section. Fun fact, Noah Polley was the North Dakota State University wide receiver coach for Christian Watson before coaching wide receiver at Iowa State. do they have any interesting receivers? Interesting. Now, Iowa State, that's our boy Jaden Higgins, right?
Yes, him and Jalen Noel.
And Jalen Noel. So that's a great job, Greg, because some people might see that and roll their eyes, but you, as a coach, as a scouting staff, you build relationships with these coaches, right? As a scouting staff in the NFL, you build relationships with these college coaches. And if they leave and go to another place, you still got that contact information. That's right. He went to Iowa State. We picked his brain for Christian Watson before. Let's give him a call. There might be a little pipeline created there with the coach. Not so much. We always focus on there's pipelines created with the schools, but it's also the working relationships that you create with the coaches. So anything you want to add to that? That's an interesting fact there, Greg. Thank you for bringing that up.
No, I mean, I don't think that that's a nothing burger whatsoever. Like you said, I mean, human beings are human beings. They're going to gravitate towards what they know, who they're familiar with. It's like any industry. It's not exactly what you know, it's who you know. Especially when you have a proven track record of a guy like with Watson, what he's done for the team, obviously. I think it'd be pretty cool. And I like, honestly, both of those receivers. They're a little different, obviously, structurally, but both of them, they both were 1,000-yard receivers, if I'm not mistaken, this year. Put up some pretty good numbers. So I'd be pumped to have either one of those guys.
Yeah, definitely. Dave Colvin, also in the same group here, posted a link to an article. You guys can search it and go check it out. NFL.com. This was 3 days ago. Mike Green denies the sexual assault allegations. So there's a little bit more information on that Mike Green question that everybody was asking about where, obviously he was accused of sexual assault. The research we've done, it seemed like a big nothing burger to me. But, again, it's something you want to take serious if there's any merit to it. But also you got to give people the benefit of the doubt. If there's the way I always look at it, man, if somebody did something wrong, there'll be legal action. And in 2025, there's going to be legal action, right? You're at least going to get a settlement or something, So that, to me, I would say do your own research. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on that because I don't have all the facts, and we try to focus on football and not too much off the season stuff. So, all right, Jacob, you ready to move on to X? We'll walk across X here and see what's going on in Packer land. As we got our buddy Easton Butler, man, doing a phenomenal job running down these prospects. Another cornerback on the Packers' radar is Louisville cornerback Quincy Riley. So the Packers met with Quincy Riley. You got anything you'd like to that you might know about Quincy Riley or any comments on that? I'm going to look him up on our board here and see what we got.
He's been in kind of an intriguing prospect. I don't know where you have him on the board, but I've been seeing him maybe around like the 4th or 5th round is kind of where I think people are putting him.
We got him at 209. Yeah.
Okay. I like the kind of raw talent that I think he could have. Obviously we've had some decent players from Louisville before, so I wouldn't be mad with it. There are a few other prospects that I'd like to see us take a stab at before I would settle on getting Riley, but I definitely wouldn't be upset if we got him at the right time, right round, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we've got him at 209, and the reason he's so low, his best year was in 23, where he was the 29th graded corner in all of college football, but last year he dropped to 634. The 33rd team had him in the 120 mark. Dane Brugler had him at 77, so there's a big difference there between our board and Dane Brugler. That's why we always try to include that stuff in as well. So, if you were to take where we got him and where Dane Brugler's got him, then you put him right around where the 33rd team at. You know what I mean? So,
Go
ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say he fits the bill. I'm just looking at his PFF grades. He didn't grade great this year, but you look at last year at over 800 snaps, the guy was an 85.9. 29th out of 859 cornerbacks. That's pretty good. Yeah,
that kind of fits that whole Jaden Reed mold, right? That we've seen last year for sure. All right, up next, this one got me kind of excited, and you guys could only imagine. I've talked a lot about James Pierce, and it is funny to watch how everything kind of evolves through the draft process, because early in the process, when I was talking about James Pierce being at the top of our board, people were like, he might be a second-round pick. Like they wasn't as high on him as most people were. On our board, James Pierce, and he just crushed the combine. Obviously, he climbed up a little bit more. He's now in the number 8 spot as he got the just about the maximum bonus. He scored in the 9, so he got a 5-point bonus on our board from the combine. He ran what was it, a sub 4.540, Jacob, if I remember correctly?
Yeah,
4.47.
4.47.
Yeah. And everything else checked out as well. Well, just so happens the Packers met with him at the combine. So now, will he drop to 23 after this combine performance? I have a hard time believing it, but this might be another one of those players we were just talking about. The Packers traded up to 16 or 17 spot, right? And you throw Jair in a trade to get up there. Maybe he falls into that sweet spot where you could trade up and grab somebody like that. But as it sits right now, I've got him in in tier 1, we've got 4 players. There's no players in tier 2. And in tier 3, we go in increments of 5. In tier 3, there are 5 players. He's one of those players in tier 3. So he is a top 10 prospect on our board. That makes sense. So how would you feel about James Pierce if he fell to the Packers, man? That dude, I think you're getting a freak off the edge there. And who knows, maybe you could kick LV in and Gary inside in this 4-3 a little bit more and get everybody on the field in those NASCAR packages.
Yeah, I'd be very excited about it. The guy's 6'5", maybe a little undersized with the weight, but I think we could put that on real easy. Just had him hit the Culvers here a few times. And talk about production. I mean, look at his score. It was like an 87 this year and I think a 90 or something last year, just back-to-back years of being absolutely elite against really good competition. I would really much enjoy it. I will make a shout out too. I'm just looking at the list. James Pierce Jr., like we just said, had the 4.47. Just about 5-6 spots down is our guy Landon Jackson, that absolute monster beast. He had a 4.68 when the guy is supposedly listed at like 6'7", almost 300 pounds, running a 4.68. There are some freaks on this defensive line draft this year, so I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think here. Somebody asked about Shamar Stewart, didn't they?
Shamar Stewart was a 4.59. He was the 4th overall edge defender with that 40 time.
Who was it that? Oh, here we go. Yeah, Prince. Did Pierce run faster than Stewart? He did. He did run faster than Stewart. James Pierce Jr. is the fastest edge defender at the combine in terms of 40 time. They don't have a top speed for him, which is interesting. But James Pierce Jr. ran a 4.47. Colin Oliver out of Oklahoma State ran a 4.56. Fadil Diggs ran a 4.57. And then Shamar Stewart ran that 4.59 that Jacob was talking about. Then you got Jai Joyner 4.6, Tyler Barron 4.6, Jordan Birch 4.6, Landon Jackson 4.6, and on and on. So, yeah, as of right now, it looks like if these become official times, I'm interested to see if he cracked 22 miles an hour, he being James Pierce Jr., because Jai Joyner, even though he ran a 4.640, he actually cracked 22.5 miles an hour. So It's wild to think about because he is – how big is he? 6'4", 262 pounds, Jai Joyner is. That's a big man. So,
big guy.
There you go. So, yeah, hopefully that answered your question there, Prince. Yeah, Blake B, Shamar Stewart, similar profile to Rashawn Gary. That's interesting. All right, moving along. Let's pause this real quick, and we're going to get a quick little grab. Bang, let's throw Rashawn up to cover this one up. So this was coverage last night on One Bills Live, and I believe it was Greg Cosell, is talking about Metcalf Williams. You guys know another edge defender that people are very interested in this year's draft. This is just, like I said, Greg Cosell from NFL Films talking about breaking down the tape on pass rusher Metcalf Williams out of Georgia. Here we go.
He's the most intriguing of all the edge players. I thought he actually improved in terms of how he went about rushing the quarterback this year as opposed to last year, because I watched his tape last summer as well. He is a man. If you see him in person, I actually got to see him in person when he won the Maxwell Club Award when he was a high school senior going to Georgia. And if you just saw him in a suit, you would have thought he was 30 years old. He looks like a man.
Okay.
Yeah, he's one of those guys. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Some of these guys look like, suburban kids.
Yeah.
Not him.
Right.
All right.
And I think there's a ton in his body. And I don't know the kids. I talked to him for 5 minutes, 4 years ago at the Maxwell. So I can't sit here and say I know him. But assuming good things, I think he's the most intriguing. And I hate to use words. We all use it when we're scouting players, upside, potential, things like that. But I think that there's so much in his body with his athleticism, his movement. He's powerful. one thing I've learned, Brownie, is, and I've learned this from going to the O-line Masterminds event in Frisco, Texas for 2 years in a row, talking to offensive tackles in the NFL. All they talk about is if you can't win with power, then it's really hard to be a good pass rusher. Because I had a great conversation with Andrew Whitworth, who obviously knows a little more about playing left tackle than I do. And he said, eventually you got to get through me. So all these guys that have moves and dance and all these, eventually they got to get through me because the quarterback's behind me.
It's still push and shove.
They got to get behind me. So if you can't play with power, these guys don't fear any of that as much.
And he has prototype size. I mean, he's 6'5". He's 260.
I bet his arm length is good.
He's got 10-inch hands and 34.5-inch arms.
Yeah.
So, I mean, prototype every box, height, weight, reach.
He will, unless there's a trade, I'm being honest, he won't be there at 30.
Oh, no.
All right, so you heard Greg Cosell say he would not be there at 30, talking about Mikael Williams. Obviously a solid prospect, and we've got Mikael Williams in the 20 spot, so it lines up absolutely perfect with Greg Cosell said. I'm tempted to go ahead and throw the Greg Cosell bonus on him because obviously he's very high on him.
Yep.
I'll raise him up the boards a little bit more. But Daniel Jeremiah has him in the 16 spot. 33rd team had him at 15, and Dane Brugler had him at 16. So everybody's right there in the same wheelhouse on Mikael Williams. What do you got, Jake?
In addition to all that, we talked about 6'5", 265, great speed. Guess how old he is?
No.
20.6 years of age.
Oh, Goody DiCaprio. And he's trending
number one by 16% over the next team. 11% is the Packers are trending to get him. So that's according to PFF. We never know how the board, PFF has him ranked 22nd overall, absolutely right in our wheelhouse. I think that guy and maybe a Donovan Izzuruko or Landon Jackson are going to be some of those guys that maybe people may be a little bit surprised that we maybe snag, if not move up for. I don't know, man. It's just, there's a lot of intriguing D linemen.
Yeah, they're really
interior and edge. It's loaded.
Yeah. And Mikael Williams, like I said, in the 20 spot for us, there is one. See, above him, let's just go backwards, okay? Above him is Mike Green out of Marshall. And then above him is Shamar Stewart out of Texas A&M. Above him is James Pierce Jr. And then above him is Abdul Carter. So Mikael Williams, if the Packers took him, I would have no qualms with that at the 23 pick. If he falls that far, that would be totally fine with me. So, all right, let's move on to DB as we got the 40-yard dash times in. And here are the guys that crushed the 40-yard dash. And we know one thing I've heard Greg Cosell and other people that I have a lot of respect for talk about the 40-yard dash. Some people don't think it's a big deal. When it comes to corners, you got to be able to match speed. You got to. You've got to be able to match speed with receivers who have speed. So that's why sometimes the speed at the cornerback position, scouts or teams, GMs, seem more important than even speed at the wide receiver position because you got to be able to match their fastest receiver. Maxwell Harrison leads the way here out of Kentucky, a 4.28. Jacob, this surprised the hell out of me, even being a Kentucky fan. You guys know I'm down on Maxwell Harrison more than most people this year, but going into the combine, you talk about improving his stock tremendously. Maxwell Harrison is definitely on the rise, and if we pull him up on our board, he is now officially in the 82 spot after that bonus that he got. So I'm still lower than him than most. DJ has him at 44. 33rd team has him at 57. Dane Brugler had him at 54, and he did get the maximum bonus from the combine as it sits right now. Now you're probably wondering, Clayton, what brought him down so far? It's his 2024 PFF grade. We still took into account the fact in 2023 he finished 62nd best corner. When 2024, he finished 484th before the injury. So that's why we say our board is a lot safer than other boards, meaning people like that who haven't done it consistently are going to get dinged a little harder than what most people's draft boards get dinged. And keep in mind, it's the reason Edgerrin Cooper was a little bit lower on our board last year. If I remember correctly, it was kind of vice versa. His last year in college, stud. The year before, it was like, he's good, but, so it's which guy are you going to get? If you get a guy ascending like that, it seems to be a little more valuable, happening recently. But Maxwell Harrison improving his his stock here, Jacob. Then obviously, I'm sure you can read these, all the other corners. Anything else stick out there? Anything you want to add to the cornerback top from the 40-yard dash?
Yeah, Darian Porter is starting to become more and more intriguing to me. He had his best year this last year in 2024. Not great, but a 79.4, and he's improved every year that he'd been there. He is 24, but the guy that PFF has him listed at 6'4", 200.
Jeez, Pete.
I don't know if that's accurate. Let me check and see what on NFL Network.
Yeah. While you do that, I've got Darian Porter in the 72 spot. We didn't have a grade for him in 22 or 23. Obviously, he played at Iowa State. He was the 80th highest grade corner in 24. PFF Big Board had him at 41. The consensus Big Board had him at 91. Daniel Jeremiah did not have him in his top 50. However, the 33rd team did, but Dane Brugler had him in the 99 spot, and he got the maximum. He scored a 10 on his RAS, so he actually got a 6-point bonus. Something new that Emilio talked me into adding to the board this year. It's not like that's a huge bonus, that extra point, but it's to identify, wow, this dude did everything he could athletically to improve his stock. So,
yeah, PFF has him at 6'4". NFL Network has him at 6'3", 200. I mean, either way, that's a big corner for him to be running a 4.3. Pretty impressive. I would like him to, depending on, I wouldn't want him to take him in like the first or second, but if he slipped into that third round, I'd be totally cool with that.
Yeah, definitely. And then also on this list, the number 3 spot coming in at 4.33 is Caleb Ransall out of Tulane. Number 4 is Jacob Parrish, 4.35 out of Kansas State. Number 5 is Zah Frazier out of Texas, San Antonio with a 4.36. Number 6, you got Marquise Siegel out of Kansas State, 4.37. Nick Emanware, safety out of South Carolina. These are DBs, guys. There may be some safeties mixed in there. I apologize for that. 4.38 out of South Carolina for him. Jahdae Barron is tied for 8th out of Texas with a 4.39. That's going to help him a lot. Right with him is Robert Longerbeam out of Rutgers, 4.39. And then in the number 10 spot, you got Justin Wally with a 4.40 out of Minnesota. So if we were to just sort corners on our board here, exit that out. And I want to see exactly, if we sort it by corners, I want to see who's the highest graded corner now and who's got the bonuses. So Travis Hunter's still up there. He was not at the combine. Will Johnson is second. He was not at the combine. Jahdae Barron is our third best corner, and he got the maximum increase there, or bonus, I should say, with the RAS in the 9s. Siobhan Ravel was not at the combine, obviously nursing the injury. Then Trey Amos also scored a 9+ RAS, giving him a 5-point bonus on ours. So Benjamin Morrison is one that's been linked to the Packers here lately. He is not at the combine. But if you look at the cornerback position, Jacob, you say, okay, according to our board, the top corners that are linked to the Packers, there's 3 that pop off. Jahdae Barron out of Texas, the Packers have met with. Trey Amos out of Ole Miss, the Packers have met with. And Morrison out of Notre Dame, the Packers have met with. So, and Jacob Parrish, who's on this list, we're a little bit lower on him. We got a grade of 103.1, albeit Dane Brugler's got him in the 86th spot. He is also linked to the Packers as well. So, anything else you want to add to the cornerback talk here, Big Dog?
I really love Trey Amos. The more and more I see him, he just seems like such a great fit. Graded out so well all through college. Great size. Went up against good competition. That's a guy that I don't really care where we draft him. If we drafted him, I'd be happy.
He seems to be ascending, don't he? Because like in 22, 309th best corner, 23, 160th, and then 24, 21st. So he went 309 to 160 to 21. And he's one of these guys that immediately following the college season, he was 28th on the PFF Big Board. 33rd team has him at 30. Dane Brugler's much lower on him at 93. He's obviously outside of the top 50 with Daniel Jeremiah. But, yeah, I'm with you, man. He's one of those intriguing prospects for me too. Now, 23, little rich, right? But if Goody likes him, he's not going to see it as a reach. His board he may have him in the top tier of talent in this draft. Could be the case. Yep. Definitely meets some of the measurements that we talk about for sure. So let's move it along. Next, we've got tight ends. Top tight end, 40-yard dashes. Now, I know some people think we don't need a tight end. You got Kraft, you got Musgrave. I was big on Ben Sims. I know you were when they signed him. For whatever reason, them benching him in the playoffs and starting Fitzpatrick over him kind of raised my eyebrows. Yeah, it was like, what the heck happened there? But with that being said, and Luke Musgrave not staying healthy, and then, of course, Luke Musgrave also being one of these players that, in my opinion, he's underperformed when he's been on the field. I think you're in the market for a tight end. You know, the Packers met with who was the tight end they met with? One of the top ones just the other day. It wasn't Ty Warren, it was the other guy, Colston Loveland, right?
Yeah.
They met with. So it's obvious the Packers are taking time to meet with some of these tight ends. Here are your fastest tight ends in the combine. Terrence Ferguson, 4.63, Joshua Simon, 4.65, CJ Dupree, 4.69, Gavin Bartholomew, 4.7, Thomas Fadone II, 4.7, Harold Fannin Jr., 4.71, Jalen Conyers, 4.74, Mitchell Evans out of Notre Dame, 4.74, Jake Brenningstool, 4.75, and Malik Matava. How would you say that? Matavio, maybe.
Yeah.
4.81 for him. So you don't see any 4.5s, which makes you think, it's a slow class. But listen, 4.6 is cooking for a big tight end. It really is. So in terms of where these guys are on our board, Ferguson we've got as the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th best tight end, even though he was the fastest tight end. And then Joshua Simon, we have, I think, even lower. Yeah, Josh Simon is way down there, man. He's like in the 300s for us. So he's definitely improved his draft stock, I'm sure. Harold Fannin Jr., Jacob, we've talked about him quite a bit. You know, obviously PFF, he crushed it. He is still our 4th best tight end in this draft, as he was, according to PFF, the top graded tight end in college football 2 years in a row, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's tough to argue with that. When I look at the PFF big board and how these tight ends have ranked, even like their grades, other than a good grade from Warren this last year and Colson Loveland, and then you add in Fannin Jr., they're not very impressive grades. They're all 50s and 60s, like almost until you get to a guy maybe like Jalen Conyers, who graded out fairly well. It's almost kind of weird. Aronde Gadsden II out of Syracuse, he grades well, but a lot of these guys are honestly grading kind of bad. So it's an interesting class for sure. I'm sure that, PFF, we always talk, is not the end all be all. Once these guys actually hit the NFL, I'm sure that certain players are going to rise and certain players are going to fall. But as far as just the metrics go, it's an interesting class for sure. I don't know how to feel about it.
Yeah. And I know there's some people that think you probably don't need another tight end. I try to look for like commonality in a sense of like, okay, the Packers, they're looking at tight ends. They've met with 2 already, right? They've met with Colston Loveland out of Michigan and Harold Fannin Jr. out of Bowling Green. That should tell you, okay, they're thinking there's still a little bit of a need there. They wouldn't be wasting that time meeting with these players, right?
What do you think about what Prince says, saying including futures, we already have 7 tight ends? That seems heavy for this time of year, but
what does futures mean? That means
right.
Tight ends that nobody else wants, right? So you're taking a swing on those guys, and you may hit on one, right, Prince? That's kind of I think that's their. To me, I see people would see that and go, well, we don't need a tight end. We got a bunch. When I see a bunch of futures like that, to me, that looks just like it's the same information we're getting here that they're meeting with tight ends. They're trying to figure something out, So if the right guy falls to them, I can see them taking them. It's not at the top of my priority list. Don't take me the wrong way. But let me ask you guys this. God forbid something happened to Tucker Kraft and he goes down in week 3. How you feeling about your tight end room? That would suck, because we have Tucker Kraft. The emergence of Tucker Kraft is the reason we were 4th in yards per pass attempt last year. You know how many times he took a 5-yard pass and, took it 40, 50. In one game, he had a 60-yard. It was a shallow cross or a mid cross. Took it 66 yards for a touchdown, I think it was. So if you remove Tucker Kraft because he's banged up from that lineup, now all of a sudden we're scrambling, right? And that's why it's important to look at the picture as a whole, in my opinion. I could be wrong, but I look at it like, how do you make your football team better? Take the best player available that lines up with your needs and kind of go that regard. So I don't know, man, that worries me a little bit, that if Tucker Kraft goes down, we're not going, this dude can step right into that role. Because we remember the days when we had no tight end. It sucked.
Yeah, it's been a while. Daryl said that, Fannin can't block. If we have Tuck Norris, I don't necessarily think that we're looking at him to come in and be a block. I mean, obviously, Matt LaFleur is going to want his tight ends to at least give an effort, but if Fanning Jr. is as good as he is at catching the ball, which obviously he's graded out phenomenally, I could see Matt LaFleur maybe making him more of that Musgrave role, where we didn't ask Musgrave to do a lot in the trenches. Just be willing, and maybe we split you out more of a slot tight end. You know what I mean? And that's another dangerous puzzle piece. If we had that, it'd be fun. It'd be fun for sure.
And that's another option that you need to mention when you're telling this whole story of how the 2025 Packers roster is going to shape up. Christian Watson's going to be out for a good chunk of the year. You get someone like Harold Fannin Jr., you come out in 12 personnel, trigger their base defense, flex him out wide. You go from crap, this tight end is going to be, we're at a disadvantage too. We've got a mismatch now, and they got to choose. Are we bringing a safety over to cover him, or are we going to walk a backer out on him? Either way, it's going to tilt the chessboard in favor of the Packers if Harold Fannin Jr. ends up being a great tight end, and if the Packers were to draft somebody like that. So I think you're spot on there, Jacob. Yes, you would want a well-rounded tight. Everybody wants a Rob Gronkowski, a guy who can play boundary X and also put a defensive end on his ass. Everybody wants that. They're just few and far between. Now you got to think in terms of deployment. So, so keep an eye on the tight end position for sure. You know what? I'm going to save these for the tonight show. We've got a bunch of measurables coming in. We're at the 50-minute mark anyway. We're going to talk about where each of these positions rank according to NFL.com and NFL Next Gen Stats and their actual draft score ratings and all that stuff. They've got their own scoring system. They've got a production grade, which look at it this way, guys. Typically, NFL teams, they have a college production grade and they have a draft or they have a athleticism score, right? And then you take those together and that's your draft score. Is how they look at it. On our board, RAS is our athletic score and PFF is our college grade, our production grade, if that makes sense. So that's how we utilize those two aspects. So you're going to get a totally different look on NFL.com, which I'm sure they've got a system they use to come up with these scores. It could be people like Daniel Jeremiah scoring the tape too. That could be the case. We'll dive into 3 key positions for the Packers tonight, and that's defensive tackle, edge, and linebacker, which those are already pretty much finalized. Tomorrow, we should have the information to move on to the next group, which, if I remember correctly, looking at our combine schedule, will be DBs and tight ends will be finalized tomorrow. We'll do the same thing there. Then running backs, quarterbacks, and wide receivers. And then the final positions will be obviously offensive lines. So in terms of the combine for the rest of the day, today it's obviously Saturday, March 1st. You're going to have DBs and tight ends finish up their workouts today with bench press. They'll do broadcast interviews, and then they'll depart Indianapolis. And then, of course, tomorrow you'll have the finality of the running backs, quarterbacks, and wide receivers with their bench press and their departure. Although on field workouts today, we get to see the running backs, quarterbacks, and wideouts today, Jacob. So some of those carry a whole lot of value, when it comes to the draft, especially quarterback. You might get to see some of those guys on the field. So anything else you got to add here before we wrap up, man?
Just an interesting fact that Prince brought up. He goes, I didn't realize how big Fitzpatrick was. He's 6'7", 262. That's a big old boy there. Yep.
Yeah. So, Prince, like you said, man, they got a bunch of bodies in house. They're going to get a good look at them this offseason too, right? When they do their offseason program, they may fall in love with 1 or 2 of those guys and say, hey, we're good. And that is an ideal situation, Jacob. Like, you're talking about extremely low cap hit and a guy that you're going to have rights to for like 2 or 3 years. Mm-hmm. That would be absolutely awesome if it worked out that way. So, all right, that's it, guys. We'll be back tonight, 7 p.m. Central for PTA Live. Everybody have a great day. We'll bring you some more combine news, any other trade rumors that may or may not shake loose, and we'll see if Matt Schnaben and our buddy from the Seattle Seahawks, Locked On Seahawks podcast, if they meet up at Starbucks or not. We'll see who had the real information. So everybody have a great day. Thank you, Fred. Appreciate you hanging out, man. Y'all hit that like button for us. Thanks to the Patreon group, and we will see y'all tonight. Have a good one.
And we go. Bye, guys.